Is my screen visible to everyone?
Yes, sir.
All right. Okay, I'll begin again. Today we are going to be talking about essay writing for UPSC exam. My name is Rajat Awasthi. I am working as a scientist in ISRO, and I have written 6 mains in the UPSC exam and consistently scored in the 140s in the essay segment. So today I'll be sharing some tips on how to get good scores in the essay paper. First of all, let's start with the importance of essay paper. Why is this so important that you need to have a separate paper for this? Uh, the first observation is that it has the widest possible range of marks awarded by the UPSC. I have seen people score as high as 165 plus and people scoring as low as like below 30 marks even. Like last year we had people scoring below 30 even in this paper. And that usually happens when you completely misinterpret the topic. So clearly, the variation in the marks that happens in this paper is unparalleled when you compare it with other papers of general studies. And hence, it can make or break your rank. You cannot afford to neglect this paper at all. Other good thing about the essay paper is that it has the shortest possible book list compared to other subjects. If you have to score like let's say 165 plus in a GS paper, first of all, it hasn't happened till now, if I'm sure. Like I haven't seen anyone score as huge as that. And even if you were to score that big of a score, you would probably need to read a lot of books for that. But in essay paper, you don't have any prescribed standard books. Like generally, what you read in the newspapers or listen to debates in the big picture or other shows like that, they are good enough to frame good arguments and ideas of your own and get good marks in this paper. So the essay paper has to be your best friend to get a good rank in the UPSC exam. Let's get to the basics of this topic. Let's see what we are dealing with here. First of all, what is an essay? The word essay is derived from a Latin word exegium, which translates into presenting your own case. It's like pleading before a judge, the only difference being that this time it's in a written form. So it's like a written debate that has to be presented in a prescribed format. And since it is your own case, essays are highly personalized. It is not like GS answers where you can borrow ideas and opinions of expert committees or international bodies and their reports. Over here, what matters is your own standpoint on a given topic. You will be evaluated based on that. And what they're trying to see is how comprehensive your assessment of a topic is. Like you have to be the devil's advocate here, as simple as that. And to do that, you need to have some creative thinking, critical thinking abilities. You cannot simply mug up some coaching institutes or read an editorial and exactly present a replica of it in the paper for an essay. That is not going to fetch you good marks. If I have to explain this in a kind of an analogy, I would go back to Hindu scriptures. They have a story of the elephant and 6 blind people. In this scenario, what happens is that there is a huge elephant and there are 6 blind men. Now, obviously, they cannot see the elephant, and their job is to assess by using touch alone what kind of a creature is in front of them. So one of them goes to the trunk and touches it and says it's a snake. Another guy touches uh, the teeth of it and says that it's a spear. Someone touches its ears and says it's a fan, and things like that. So the thing over here is like, how is this related to an essay? Is that the essay topic is like the elephant, and you people have to take the role of the 6 blind men and describe the topic in its various aspects and dimensions. All of these dimensions are partially correct, but your job does not end right there. You have to integrate them into an organic whole. Like you just cannot present all different aspects of an essay and leave it as it is. You have to synthesize them and show how they are related to the same elephant or the same topic. That is what differentiates an essay from something like enumerating the aspects of a topic. So we have a brief idea of what is an essay, and in case we want to be more specific, we should also know what is not an essay, or what you can mistake to be an essay and end up getting really terrible marks. So first of all, the essay is not a GS answer. I've seen a lot of students making this mistake who are really good at GS answer writing. They try to use the same methodology for essay and it backfires terribly. You don't have to present a mere gist of expert opinions that you have borrowed from some study material. What matters is your own viewpoint and how unique it is and how comprehensive it is. The essay is not a mere collection of facts. It's more about ideas and logical arguments. The essay is not a mere assortment of different viewpoints, but an organic whole. Like, you don't have to be an individual blind man in that story. You have to be like a third empire who is observing all their judgments and then reconciling them into the elephant. There are some topics in which you need to take a stand for or anti. If you go for the claim, if you are for the claim, it is called thesis, and if you are against the claim, it is called antithesis. But your job is not finished there. You have to reconcile both of them into a synthesis. That is what writing a good essay entails. Next, we come to different types of essays. There's a very authoritative person in this sphere called Huxley. He has categorized essays into three basic types. The first types are personal and autobiographical essays, which is rarely asked in UPSC these days. You will find them in state PCS exams, like if I were the Prime Minister of India, stuff like that. Second is the objective, the factual, the concrete, particular type of essay, which is also called the technical essay. It could be like related to climate change or nuclear weapons, renewable energy, stuff like that. The third type is abstract universal essays, which are most comfortable for philosophy optional students and probably the most difficult to comprehend for students of other backgrounds. So this is called the philosophical essay or abstract essay. Next, we will proceed to structure of an essay. Any lay person will tell you that the essay usually has three basic parts. They are called introduction, main body, and conclusion. But the point is, do you understand the interrelationship of these three essential parts? We'll see that next. The most important thing to remember is that all these three essential parts are graded in their own right, as well as an organic whole. The evaluator will evaluate the introduction, main body, and conclusion separately, and then he will evaluate the essay as a whole based on how well the relationship has been established between these three parts. Next, we'll go on to the introduction part. The main aim of introduction is to arouse the reader's interest. First impression is the last impression. And over here, you need to set the scene of the topic and what you are going to do with it. For example, you can imagine that you are a company which offers holiday packages to people. How would you attract prospective buyers? Obviously, you will tell them all the attractive things that are on the menu, like heritage sites to be visited, national parks, stuff like that. So in the introduction, you need to give a brief synopsis of the methodology that you will be adopting to argue your case in the main body. There can be different methods that can be used for this. You can explain how you interpret the question set before you. This will give the evaluator an idea of how well you have understood the question, and his interest will be invested accordingly. If you start with a concept that directly hits home in the main theme of the essay, the invigilator is like more prone to get interested in your essay from the word go. Other thing that you could do is that in case there are any complex concepts or terminology used in the topic, then you can define or explain any key terms in simpler ways. The third type that can be done, the third method, is to give a brief outline of which issues you will explore and in which order. Apart from this, there are two very popular themes in an introduction which people use, and they are the anecdote or quotation. Now, the important thing is that anecdotes are becoming fairly common in UPSC essays these days. But I have seen people overshooting the word limit because the anecdote was really lengthy or the anecdote was self-contradictory in nature. So you have to be very, very careful while using anecdotes. All right. It is a high risk, high reward ratio game. And for God's sake, please do not produce an epic like Mahabharat in the anecdote section. All right, because it's going to eat into your word limit and your time as well. Next, we come to the main body of the essay. The main body generally contains the points that were outlined in your introduction. Now you see how the various elements of an essay, the main body, introduction, and conclusion are interlinked. This is what we mean by coherency and logical flow of an essay. All right, what you mentioned in the introduction, the synopsis of your method, will be followed through in the main body in detail. So the main body contains the points that were outlined in your introduction, and this is done in a detailed way by dividing it into paragraphs. Some people use the heading and subheading method. That is fine. That is more useful in our technical essays, although it is useful even for the philosophical ones, and it makes the job easier for evaluators. So I would recommend it. But even if you don't follow this heading subheading method, if you are old school, even then it isn't a big issue. So when we talk about paragraphs, there is a hierarchy among paragraphs. The very first paragraph is distinct from the other paragraphs. The first paragraph of the main body covers the first thing you said you would address in the introduction synopsis. Remember, you gave a synopsis in the introduction that I'm going to do this in this order. So whatever you had mentioned first in the introduction needs to be addressed in the first paragraph. These are little technical details that have to be taken care of, and the evaluators do give credit for following all these rules. The first sentence is called the topic sentence, and it introduces the main idea of the paragraph. We are talking about the first paragraph here. The very first line of the first paragraph will address the main idea that will be discussed in the paragraph. So generally, a rule of thumb is that you have to dedicate one full paragraph to one distinct idea. Do not jumble one idea into two paragraphs or two ideas in one paragraph. Generally, one paragraph should pertain to one idea only. Other sentences will develop the topic further. The first sentence will introduce the idea, and other sentences will defend that idea or present evidence or argue for or against that idea. This was the first paragraph. This was distinct. It was the most important paragraph of the main body. Now we come to the second paragraph, paragraph 2, and all other paragraphs that follow paragraph 1. They are of similar types. The change over here is that the first sentence over here links the paragraph to the previous paragraph. And the second sentence then introduces the main idea of the paragraph. All right. Now try to understand it properly. In the first paragraph, we saw that the first line introduced the idea of the paragraph. All right. But in the second paragraph, the first line will not serve that purpose. Second line will. What will the first line do? It will try to link this paragraph with the first paragraph. This is how interlinking is to be done. The first paragraph of the first sentence of every paragraph is supposed to link this paragraph to the one preceding it. This has to be taken care of. Otherwise, all the paragraphs look out of sync and they look very abrupt in nature. Next, the main body tries to cover the topic in multiple dimensions, just like that story that I told you. Dimensions are various aspects of a topic, looking at the same topic from different standpoints. There are some very popular ways of breaking up a topic into various dimensions. Some of them are like some people do it according to evolution, like past, present, future of a concept. Uh, some other people use the thesis, antithesis, and synthesis method. This is generally done in topics in which you have to take a stand for or against a claim. Then this is evergreen, the political, social, economic, cultural, legal, technical. You can add n number of dimensions into it. Other form is the similarities and differences, compare and contrast kind of essays, or you can use a hybrid of all above methods. All right. The main thing behind breaking up into dimensions is showing the evaluator how comprehensive your knowledge is. All right. Like let's say if an essay comes on the current farmers' unrest, then you have to be able to present your case as an legislator of the government, as an administrator, as well as a farmer and a protester. All right. You have to be able to comprehend the ideas of all the stakeholders involved. Only then the invigilator can understand that your knowledge is comprehensive and you will be able to take the best possible decision only if you can think like all the stakeholders involved. Next, we come to the third essential feature in an essay, which is called the conclusion. And this is like the reverse process of introduction. In introduction, you had to lay bare all the plans of your method, whereas in the conclusion, you have to draw everything back together again, like a jigsaw puzzle. All right. So in this, you can imagine yourself as someone who has recently come back from a vacation, and you are telling your friends all the important activities that you undertook, all the adventurous activities you undertook during that vacation. It's like presenting a snapshot, a souvenir of your memories of whatever happened. All right. So in an essay, what you'll do is that you will summarize the main themes that were discussed in the main body, the main arguments, as well as you will state your general conclusions. All right. You will not be very specific over here. You will give the broader picture or the big picture of the entire topic. This is all about generalizations. Main body is all about specifications, getting into depth of every argument, whereas this is generalization. Like people who have studied calculus, it's like integration, whereas main body is like differentiation. So over here, you have to make it clear, finally, why those conclusions are important or significant. Why did you arrive at them? Like first thing is summarize the main themes. Second thing, state your general conclusions on those themes. And third thing is make it clear why those conclusions are important or significant to the topic at hand. In the conclusion, it is best not to introduce any new material. Do not introduce any new argument. Do not start a new debate in the conclusion because it will become self-contradictory. You are supposed to conclude things here. Do not start a new debate all over again. All right. Do not introduce new ideas over here. It will go against you. And just like first sentence of the main body was very, very significant, just like that, the last sentence of conclusion is very important. Over here, you have to sum up your argument very briefly. And important thing is, and this must be done, is that you have to link it to the title. Somehow you have to refer back to the topic and end your essay with a reference to the title. This will give a comprehensive closure to the whole debate. And as we mentioned earlier, you have to give a broader perspective. You have to generalize here. You have to give the big picture in the conclusion. And a really good conclusion will always leave the reader for thought. He will keep thinking about the things you had said in the essay. It should be so impactful. All right. Although you shouldn't leave him confused, you don't have to do that. But it's like you have to
Yeah, I
inspire
was.
them by your arguments to read more on the topic. Very few people are able to attain that level of skill. Generally, the examiner will simply mark your copy and forget all about it. Next, essential elements required for a good essay. First of all, it should have a catchy intro. It should catch the interest of the evaluator from the word go. Uh, the main body should be comprehensive, multi-dimension, logically linked paragraphs. Generally, the rules to be followed are one paragraph should stand for one idea or one argument, one subheading in case you are using heading subheading method, then one subheading should address one dimension, and several ideas related to that dimension can follow in the paragraphs under that subheading. Dimensions are like economic, political, cultural, these are all dimensions. Next thing to take care of in a good essay is that distinct tripartite structures should be clearly visible. Your introduction and your main body should be clearly distinguishable. Some people they write in such a way that you cannot understand where the introduction closed and where the main body started. Right? That should not happen. Apart from that, the anecdote, in case you are using an anecdote, that anecdote can be revisited briefly in the conclusion. That will give a kind of closure. Like if you had began the anecdote with a sad story, a sorry state of affairs, malnutrition or something, in the conclusion, you can revisit the same anecdote with the same characters and end it on a hopeful note. All right, that will give a lot of coherency to the entire essay. Apart from that, in case you want to gain some 10-15 marks more, you can go for illustration. Some people I know some people who were scoring in 140s and then they came up with diagrams and flow charts and stuff like that, and their scores shot up to 160 plus. So that has happened. Although, like you need to have some good writing speed to be able to have time to draw all that stuff. And next, we come to time management. Proportionate time has to be devoted to all three parts of the structure. Ideally, we give 2/3 of our time and word limit to the main body, and introduction and conclusion can be together addressed in 1/3 of the time. And finally, the most important part, synthesis of various dimensions into an organic whole. Without this, your essay is like an unwoven sweater. All right, you have to weave all the threads into one sweater in the end. Now let's see what an evaluator looks for in an essay. First thing to look for is relevance. Even if you are writing beautifully, even if you are presenting really good arguments, it is very coherent, but if it is not related to the topic that was asked, then it is meaningless to the evaluator. All right, so it has to be relevant. The second thing is understanding of the topic. Even if you are writing relevant material, but you are not understanding how to present it and what the topic was asking you to do, then it is useless as well. Third thing is evidence of use of appropriate material. This holds especially true for the technical essays. In case you are making some claims like which are scientific in nature, you need to back that up with some kind of evidence. Like in case of climate change, you can quote some IPCC reports or something, stuff like that. In case of philosophical essays, you can probably quote some very famous philosopher, which will give more weight to your point, or you can use some logical proofs like contradiction, etc., to prove or disprove an idea. Fourth thing is organization of material into a coherent structure. Introduction, followed by argument and evidence, which is the main body. And evidence can be logical or factual. That doesn't matter. That depends on the type of essay. Like, let's say, how to give a logical or factual proof. Let's say there is an essay which justifies patriarchy by saying that women are physically inferior to men. All right. But you do not agree with this statement, but that is not enough. You have to prove yourself true somehow. So you can give an argument like, the pain endured by women during childbirth, a man cannot comprehend it, and like, that shows how physically strong they are, and that proves that this statement is false. This kind of proof. Fifth thing is to have a clear style of writing, which includes accurate spelling, which is very difficult to find among Indian public, because this is not our first language, obviously. So UPSC does not penalize you too heavily for making spelling mistakes, but it does penalize you. I'm pretty sure it does, like 2-3 marks. I think definitely it happens. Then clear sentence construction and punctuation. All of us make a lot of mistakes in these things, and these things can cost you around 2-3 marks in the end. Sixth thing is that use of your own words, except when you are directly quoting from some another source. If you cut, copy, paste verbatim from some report or some study material, it is going to go against you, as simple as that. You have to be as original as possible while writing an essay. Now let's talk something about quotes. I've seen a lot of people think that using quotes is mandatory in an essay. It's not that, all right? There are some scenarios where using a quote is helpful, and it is only helpful when it plays one of these roles. Either it creates the initial impact on the essay evaluator and makes your essay look more promising and interesting. Okay, go ahead, use the quote. Or it establishes some credibility to your point of view, that okay, some famous philosopher, some famous president also thought like this. Then also it's helpful. Third thing, sometimes quote can also be used in the conclusion. Generally it is used in the introduction, but it can also be used in the conclusion. And it is used in the conclusion when it leaves the invigilator with a point to contemplate. All right. If it lingers in his mind, some profound statement in the end, which leaves impact on his thinking, then you can use the quotation in the conclusion. However, if the quotation does not serve any of these purposes, then you are simply misusing it, and it is not going to help you get more marks. In fact, it could do more harm than good. If you are deliberately, forcefully trying to fit it somehow, that's not going to work. So you should start writing your essay with a quote that lays foundation to the main idea behind the essay. If you can find one such quote, fair enough. If you can't, then go for anecdote, no problem whatsoever. The other thing is that some people tend to overdo quotes. They have crammed so many quotes that they think that every paragraph I'm going to introduce a new quote, but that is problematic over here. It's like sugar in a sweet dish. If you keep pouring the whole bucket of sugar into it, it's not going to taste good. So if you deploy a lot of quotations in your essay, it appears as though several people are talking about the topic apart from yourself. Like your voice is getting overcrowded. All right. What the invigilator or what the evaluator wants to see is your voice, your arguments, not the loaned arguments that you have borrowed from other people. Next, we come to best practices to ace the essay paper. First things first, practice a lot. Mains exam is all about practice, right? A lot of test series. Get the essays evaluated from your peers or from your mentors. All right, that will improve your score drastically. And the second thing you can do is collect good ideas, quotes from newspapers like the Hindu editorials. Could even be PIB, like whenever you listen to a Man Ki Baat or like speeches of Venkaiah Naidu, they come up with a lot of quotes, Sanskrit quotes even. So they are good as a collection for essays. Then you can read about philosophers from ethics book in your like any standard ethics book, in case your optional is not philosophy, because those who study philosophy will always have a lot of quotes at hand, John Locke and stuff like that. Other thing you can do is that you can read Constituent Assembly debating about best practices, case the essay paper. You can also listen to Constituent Assembly debates. You can read them, and people to look out for are Jawaharlal Nehru, obviously, and B.R. Ambedkar. There are certain themes on which they are authorities, like Nehru is a champion of freedom of speech and expression. Ambedkar is about the trinity of equality, liberty, and democracy, socio-economic democracy versus political democracy. All these things are best addressed by B.R. Ambedkar. Then we have Shama Prasad Mukherjee about nationalism. So you can go and have a read over there, and you can even gather some good quotes. And another good collection of quotes is like with tags, in case you need for freedom or liberty or equality, you can just enter the tag over here. I have given a link, and they have quotes of nearly, like they have nearly 24,000 quotes. All right. So like you will get whatever you want from here. So this was the discussion on essay paper. I hope you enjoyed it, and thank you for listening, putting up with me. And now we'll start the doubt clearance session.